Morning. Hey, what's up, people? It's coffee time. Sunday morning, fantastic. I did this thing this morning that was really stupid, where I read an article last night about where there's the most bacteria in your kitchen, where you might not think it might be. And so one of the places that it said was in your coffee maker, in the reservoir for and I thought, oh, that's gross. So I got to wash out the reservoir in my coffee maker. So I tried to do it with a minimal amount of soap. But then you ever do that, like where, like maybe you just wash out the coffee pot and then you fill it up and like you think it's rinsed out all the way, but then you make coffee and you swear you can taste like in your coffee. So I did that this morning. I swear I didn't get all the soap out. So I just made another pot, and I think this one's okay. I ran water through it twice. But yeah, I drank like half a cup of coffee where I was like, man, and then you just start feeling a little weird. Anyway, that happened. That happened, and the moral of the story is sometimes I'm not very smart. Pete is not very smart. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Oh, man. Just got back from the NAMM show last night. 3 days at NAMM. And it was good to sleep in my own bed. But it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. Met a lot of people. Did a lot of stuff. You can probably hear it in my voice. My voice is thrash from days of talking and stuff. But so much fun. Really fun. And, for me, it's always really about these days just seeing old friends and making new friends. But so many old friends that you always run into, and it's always really fun. So, okay, so who we got here? Ottawa, Hong Kong. Pennsylvania, we got New Jersey, Finland, awesome, love Finland, good to see all you guys. Somebody's asking, am I sponsored by Line 6 now? So the Line 6 thing, basically, Matt Ferguson, who is the artist relations director at Line 6, he approached me a while ago because I'd done demos for the Helix and stuff like that. And he said, hey, how would you feel about being a part of this new thing we're doing called Tone Life, where we basically do a profile of, we want to profile different guitar players and make these videos. And like I was saying, they're not dissimilar to like the Ernie Ball string theory videos, where they're basically like a profile of the player, but they're obviously produced and, sponsored by a company, which is Line 6 in this case. And they just said, we want to basically like, profile you and talk about your creative process and writing songs and playing guitar and career and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll be a little bit about how you use our stuff. And I said, sure, because I do use their stuff. So that's the connection with Line 6. And I was, happy and honored to be a part of it as the first guitar player that they profiled. So I think it's, it's kind of an experiment for them, but you're going to see a lot more, different guitar players and stuff that they're associated with. And I was happy to do it. It seemed like a good fit. And yeah, so they came in the studio and obviously filmed us recording "Dirty Town," new single that just came out. And we did the basics, basic guitar, bass, and drums at my buddy Dave's studio in the Valley. And they brought in a couple cameras and stuff and just kind of fly on the wall, just sort of filmed it. And yeah, I was stoked to be a part of that. So. That's the thing with. So by the way, the latest version is on their channel. I'm going to upload it to mine. But in other words, we did it's a 3-part series of videos, and so the third one just came out on their channel like 2 days ago, and it's the one I'm most proud of actually, out of all 3 of them. And it's really about writing and the creative process and stuff like that. So go check it out on Line 6 channel. It's under their Line 6 movies. You just look for Line 6 channel on YouTube, and it's. I'll put a link maybe in the video description, so you can check it out. But I'm really proud of it. They did a nice job on it, and it sort of just turned out really good. I think the latest one. Yup, not available says, considering a PT signature, can I compare the PT versus an Ash Maple Standard with SSH plus an ML singles? Well, there's a lot of differences there. So you mean an ash body, maple neck? This is going to be a very different guitar. Ash, if it's kind of the lighter ash, sort of swamp ash, has a bit more sort of scooped out in the mids tone to me, and an airy top end, whereas mahogany is much more mid-centered. and you combine it with a maple neck. I mean, you're kind of talking about building a hot rod Strat, really, whereas my guitar is like a hot rod Strat, but it definitely, with the all mahogany construction and stuff like that, it's going to be a midier guitar, more mid focused. So that's probably going to be the biggest difference. One will be airier, a little more mid scooped, and the other one will have a bit more mid range focus. Yes. Jeff says, good morning and love the new song. Thank you, man. I'm really happy with it. I'm really proud of it. Just super stoked. Oh, Craig says vinegar. Yeah, vinegar is how you're supposed to wash out your coffee machine. I know, and I just didn't have any here. And so I'm just really careful and trying not to get any soap that gets in the reservoir too deep so that it goes into the tubing of the coffee maker, And I screwed up. It was stupid. I should have used vinegar. Let's see. Joe says he picked up an HX effects this weekend. Yeah, I guess those things are available already, and it is rad. So I made presets for line 6 for the one at the show, and it's killer. It's a Helix, without the amp modeling. It's the same sounds with some new like reverbs and stuff like that. So, and yeah, it's rad. It's like yay big. A little bit bigger than an M9, I guess, but basically a great replacement if you liked the M9. It's really good. Okay, so hello from Stockholm, hello from Dallas, awesome. Would playing in a group like Big Wreck interest you? Yeah, don't think that I haven't asked Ian. I said, hey, I'm around, so. Ian and I have batted around doing stuff actually, but maybe not in that context, But we have, because I just have such a lot of appreciation for that guy as a guy and also his music. It's so awesome. I would love to be in a band. Are you kidding? Yeah, that's the dream. I don't know if it'll ever happen at this point, but it's like I would love to be in a group again with a great singer and making records and writing songs and stuff like that. That would be killer. So. Komet Ambikab demo. I know that thing looks cool. That's from Alan. Have you guys seen the Komet Ambikab? It's like a guitar cabinet, but it also has stereo. I don't know if they're 8s, but speakers for wet dry. Really, really cool. I kind of moved away from the wet dry rig, for my own thing. It would be cool to do a demo of it, but I moved away from that a number of years ago. About 2011, I kind of quit doing the wet dry thing. I'd done it for 3 or 4 years, and I just came to realize it wasn't really for me. That too many microphones is the main problem. Too many channels to realistic. I'm in a band scenario and I'm playing with other musicians, and it's like, yeah, I need 3 mics and 2 on the wet and 1 on the dry, but the ones on the wet aren't always. You're not always going to hear like as loud a signal through them, so don't worry about it. And the sound guys just get confused. They see the level coming out of the wet being lower, and they sometimes push those mics up because well, that's supposed to be as loud as this one, which was the dry, whatever, the dry signal, and that was always an issue. It might not be an issue if you've got a steady sound person and stuff, but I had issues like going to do television shows and stuff like that where you'd show up and you have to explain you can't always see the sound guy when you're doing some TV show. He's in some booth somewhere else in the building. You're trying to explain to somebody yeah, this is what I need, and it's just complicated. So it's just easier to be stereo. For most of the gigs I do, I find. So the Ambikab, like Scott Henderson or something going into a club and playing with his simple wet dry setup with the 412 and then a separate combo amp and the wets coming out of there. It's cool because it's he's not really relying as much on the PA. He plays nice and loud. He's playing in a club. It's a lot of the sounds coming off the stage, and it's a different thing. And also in a trio format, it's cool. If you're the only guitar player, the guitar, bass, drums, or it's a band like that, it can work really well. Which is why you see people like Eddie Van Halen and stuff doing it. It's in a trio, it makes sense. In a big band with keys and another guitar player and stuff, that stereo 3 mics, it's just I don't know. It's not really necessary, I don't think. Which is no diss on the Komet thing. I mean, that cabinet is. I love the Komet guys and Hoagie and the cabinet is a great thing, and even if you don't play out or play live, what a beautiful thing to have maybe just sitting at home and playing, you know, where you can have a nice wet dry setup. You know, if that's your bag, it's definitely a great solution, all in one cabinet. So, could I name some affordable guitar cab mics other than the SM57? Sure. I like the Heil PR20. It's a little warmer sounding, I find, a little less sizzle and fizz. I guess the E906, right? The Sennheiser, is that what it's called? That's a great one. You just drape it over the cab. People seem to like it. The Audix, is it called the i5? I think that seems to get a lot of love. You know, there's a lot of affordable ribbon mics now, and I see more people using ribbons. I mean, like for instance, that new one I tested recently. That's a Sterling microphone. That's a Guitar Center brand. That thing sounds awesome, and it's $199. I think it's cheap. It sounds great. It's got a nice open top end. Really, really good sounding ribbon microphone. It's like an active ribbon. Crazy how cheap stuff's getting these days. So can I recommend a new HS effects unit? Yeah, it's a Helix. I mean, it sounds great. It's got a couple loops in it. Like I said, I tested it out. I did it with a PT100 and made presets for the NAMM show. So Line 6, actually, we lent them a PT100 to have in their booth so they could demo the thing. And I did some, so I spent, you know, an afternoon with it. And I'll say this, the only snag I ran into was trying to figure out the MIDI for a second, how to switch my amp, and then I just realized it's because there's like a second page in the MIDI menu that I wasn't seeing. So I wasn't able to get my amp to switch initially, and then I just went, oh, you need to get over to the other menu here and there. So that was the issue that I had trying to find the program change parameter per patch. So I figured it out, and other than that, I never cracked the manual. I didn't look at the manual for it, and I basically figured it out, like, you know, just you know, in a couple hours, and I wrote 7 presets. It's the Helix, you know, without the model. So if you just want the effects, it's killer. Sounds great. Even the drives. I mean, the Minotaur drive, which I guess is like their Klon. Oh, and also the Timmy. I got a great sound with their Timmy drive simulation in front of the PT100. I was running the gain on about like 4 on the channel 2 on my amp, and with the Timmy in front set a certain way, it just sounded like really cool, like really like tight and biting and like gainy, and just it was a really cool sound. I was like, wow, that sounds good. So I had a really good time with it, actually. I only had a day with it, but I was able to kind of figure it out in a day. And if you've got a Helix or you've used a Helix, it'll be easier, I guess, to figure out. They didn't have an editor ready, so I didn't use a computer editor or anything like that. Let's see, Cam says signature is cool, like my signature model, but you want an Aura even more. Yeah, that guitar's beautiful, man. John killed it on the Aura. It's such a gorgeous guitar. And I'm going to tell you, he's, you know, building them. Like, he's really doing the, you know, him and Mike Ponce are really the ones finishing those guitars right now, because they're sort of the only ones, I guess, that John feels that are trained to do it, to the point where, you know, with a slightly different, you know, type of guitar, right, a single cut glue and neck guitar. So I would FaceTime John for the whole last week, and he was in the shop until sometimes midnight doing frets on those guitars. And I would, you know, he'd be sitting there with the FaceTime camera, and I'm watching him with the files and crowning and doing the, you know, and he's so meticulous with the fretwork. So the ones at the show were all finished by him, and I think he's largely going to be doing the ones over the next year. They sold 100 at the show. It's just 100 for the first year. Oh. So we'll see. You know, don't quote me on this, and it's not some official thing, but I think what'll probably happen is over the course of the year or something, they'll train other guys in making them, get people up to, you know, some people will train under John, I guess, and Mike, and they'll, you know, exactly the way that those guys want it. They'll work it out, and then maybe they'll be able to produce more, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, if you get one of these ones in the first year, at least, I can guarantee, like, John's going to be he's going to be spending late nights, like, working on your guitar, basically, which is really cool. It's cool that he's back in the shop and watching him do frets and stuff, and, you know, not that he ever was out of the shop, but sitting there actually filing and doing the stuff himself and spending hours on guitars. He's actually doing that. He's got like a workstation out there in the shop with all the other guys and building. It's really cool. Leon says, thanks for answering all our questions and being such a positive, great guy. Very much appreciated. Hey, I appreciate you, Leon, being here. And anybody that I just, you know, just coming from NAMM, a bunch of people come up and say, hey, man, do you mind if I take a photo with you? I'm really sorry to bother you. And it's like, I'm glad anybody cares. You know, it's like, you're not bothering me. It's like, you want to take a photo with me? It's like, I don't, you know, it's awesome that anybody, you know, gives a shit about what I do. So, this is fun for me. I look forward to this every week. It's nice to meet everybody here. Just cool. Like you know, I hate the internet in some ways, and then in other ways it's awesome. Which is like, look at this. Here's somebody from Sweden, and Finland, and Detroit, and everywhere else, and we're all hanging out. This is really cool. The Marshall Origin amp. I looked at it. It looked cool. The little Origin, you know, like there's an Origin 20 and 50 and 5 or something, I think. It looked cool. I didn't hear it or anything. I thought that's cool. It seems to have multi-levels of power switching, and I like the look of the 20-watt one. I actually went and talked to them about it. Said, check that out sometime, see what it sounds like. Looked really cool. God, my voice is fried, man, from the show. It's like, just fried. Let's see. Oh, this is a great question. Jello Man says, I love the new single. Can I tell us about the other players? Yeah, so Matt Logg's playing drums. And Matt Logg played drums in Slash's Snake Pit. Would be his main sort of gig, you guys would know, back in the 90s. And he also tours with an Italian artist now, a huge like Italian superstar, and goes over there. But his main thing for the last like 20 years has been studio stuff. He's really worked a lot in the studio, and he kind of didn't want to go on the road. So he got into the studio gigs and really nurtured that, much like sort of like, you know, Tim Pierce or whatever, like making the decision to not tour. And so he's kind of a behind-the-scenes studio guy. He did go out and play. There was a gig where Steve Ferroni was sick a while ago with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. A gig they did at the Troubadour. It was like a private, you know, kind of, wasn't that private. People knew about it. It was crazy. But anyway, Matt played drums with the Heartbreakers there. And Matt also plays drums with Mike Campbell in the band The Dirty Knobs from the Heartbreakers. So he actually got to be, you know, a Heartbreaker for a minute and play with him. And he's played for a long time with Mike. Matt is an interesting drummer because he has these ballistic, like crazy chops, and he can play technical, but he's got incredible groove and feel. And he focused many years ago, he sort of made a decision to not work on like the crazy chops and shredding kind of drum stuff, and to just play feel. And so his friends actually one year got him a bass drum head, which he still has on his, you know, main drum kit or whatever, and it looks like the Miller Lite logo, and it says Matt Logg instead of Miller Lite, and at the bottom it says great taste, less fills. So I always thought that was really funny because he does have this biggest, fattest, widest groove, you know, like just the most killer. Like you feel like you can play anything as a guitar player on top of him, and it's cool because there's this big, awesome feel. And he also has incredible technique where he looks like he's barely hitting the drums, and he's just like, and the drums are like boom, crack, boom, like shoot, and he's, you know, it's all in the wrist. He doesn't even look like he's hitting it hard, and it just explodes like the snare drum. So I love playing with Matt. And he's a sweet, sweet guy. So he agreed to come in and do the single. And you hear him on there playing double kick and just, you know, and he doesn't do that anymore. It's like he literally doesn't bust out, like he just doesn't play like that. But he can, you know, he can do it because at one point he worked on it and it's still in his musical DNA or whatever. So he killed it on that track. And then John Button played bass. And John, you guys have seen in other stuff I've done. Like I recently did that Tech 21 Geddy Lee bass preamp video with John. What else have I done with him? I mean, tons of different tours. He did the Nagabuchi Choshi tour with me, as well as Draco Rosa, and we used to play in Brian Ray's band together. And John plays bass in The Who now, so he's got a gig with that little band. He's an amazing bass player, so he's playing bass on there. And the way I tracked it, I'll just tell you really quick, is I used the Helix in 4-cable method, so running it with the PT100. I went into the Helix, out of loop 4 send of the Helix into the front end of the PT100, and used mainly, you know, channel 2 for most of the track. And so what did I do then? Then send out of the PT100 back into the loop for return, and then no, that's not true. Sorry, I used it in 4-cable method, but I used it with the Suhr reactive load. Sorry, that's what I did on that track. Okay, so sorry, don't lose me here, but into the front end of the helix, then I came out of the reactive load. Okay, so the speaker out of the amplifier. No effects loop was involved. Speaker out of the amplifier into the reactive load, and then I took the output of the reactive load back into the helix and ran that for post effects. Okay, so I'm running all the effects, in other words, after the amp was loaded down using the reactive load. And I hosted the impulse response, so the speaker sound, in the helix. So the helix has the IR loader. I use the Celestion IR. So that's what you're hearing on that main rhythm guitar part in the song. And then I was able to run some, some post effects. I used probably a little, I can't even remember what I did on it, but probably a little reverb, a little echo or something. Then in the center section where you're hearing the solos, where it kind of opens up, I used the Octavia out of the helix, so you're hearing a kind of octave fuzz effect on the first sort of little lead melody part that comes in the middle. That's the helix, and yeah, I think I used the Archer as well, like for the solo, which is on my helix pedal board. Who did I? I don't remember. Anyway, helix was involved in the whole thing in that kind of like weird 4-cable method situation where I was running through it, and then that was my goal, was to kind of use it, since I used it in the video on line 6, came to shoot the video and stuff, and just wanted to do it that way using a PT100 with it. So Hans wants me to talk about the Suhr Aura. So the coolest thing about that guitar is that, much like many of John's other designs, he's sort of fixed all the stuff that was wrong. So let's start with a straighter string pull, and there's a little bit less headstock angle, so Les Paul headstock would break a little more on this guitar. It's got a little less angle, but still angled. So you're getting less, the strings fanning out is less of an angle, and also the pulling back on the nut is less of an angle. So there's just less resistance overall. And so I played it and tried to kind of make it go out of tune. And once I'd stretched the strings in really good and stuff, then I was doing minor third bends on the second string and stuff, and it was staying in tune perfect. So he's sort of solved that issue on that guitar with that sort of older design. So it's also got the belly cut, so it's a little more comfortable. And the way he's rounding the neck edges is really nice around the binding, so it's really comfortable. Fretwork's impeccable. Oh, and then it's got great upper fret access because of his heel, the heel he designed. It's not like the all access kind of heel or something like that, but it is much softer and slimmer. So the guitar also has a really long tenon. I know that. The tenon goes way, way deep into the body, so it's really, really good, strong and awesome connection there between the neck and the body. There's a big debate on the gear page right now. There's like 52 pages long thread about the woods he's using. And I don't think he's set on what wood he's using, like where the mahogany is going to come from. It's African mahogany with some people. There's 2 species, Komet and Kaya. And so, take it for what it's worth. Some people believe that the only way to get a true sort of Les Paul sound is like the, honduras species mahogany, whatever. And I don't know that much about it, but when I got my Yaren burst years ago, Gil said to me, "Do you want it to sound like a big mid-bomb, like just like that mid-range rock and roll guitar, or do you want it to have some air and life?" And then we got in this whole discussion about how he's seen purchase orders from Gibson in the 50s of large quantities of African mahogany, and he even shared those purchase orders, I believe, on the Telecaster forum. When people were probably disputing him, but anyway, Gibson bought large quantities of African wood in the 50s. It was kind of fascinating because it's like, well, those great Les Pauls and stuff, what were they made out of? And we don't know, because it's like, they could have been made out of the African stuff, could have been some of the Honduras stuff, and which ones sound better, it's all open to interpretation, I suppose. So it all depends. We all like different stuff. So I was saying this morning, I put a little post up there, and I just said, like, what's the most important thing now is probably making the best sounding guitar now, not what was used. There's some great. I've played lots of old 50s Les Pauls. I owned one. I had a 54, and 54 gold top that was killer. And in the last year, I've probably played 3, I guess, different 59 Les Pauls. Uh, and some of them are good, and some of them are like, yeah, it's cool, you know. I've never played a really shitty one. I'll say that. Like a 59 that I didn't think was at least a decent guitar. But, you know, I've played one where it's like, well, okay, it's 170 grand. I don't think I would, you know, buy it, even if I had 170 grand. But I played some that are outstanding too. So Brian Ray's was probably the most amazing one I had. Now he sold it and got another one. He has a Brian Ray had a beautiful 59 plain top, and the neck was like, looked like a new guitar. It was like an incredible condition. I played it, and I was like, oh, wow, it's incredible. But he's since got another one, I think. Anyway, I just think what should be important is oops, just lost my place in the chat. All the way to the bottom. I'll go up. There it was. I think what's important should be making the best sounding guitars now. You know, and John, so when you walk through the shop with him, it's fascinating because he's walking me around and showed me like different wood and stuff, and he's showing me pieces of wood he's got. He's like, here, guys like this because they like the way it looks, but listen to this thing, and he'll tap on it, go, hear that? And then he go, now listen to this. And, you know, it's true. One of them sounds like a piece of cardboard, like kind of dead, even though it could be really figured or whatever. And then another one will be like, it's just got these tones in it or whatever. And he's kind of taught me about that, like tapping fingerboards and stuff. He's a scientific guy. Like he's not into pseudoscience. You know, he's not into you know, BS or you know, the kind of like the I don't know. He likes things that are provable, and he believes in you know, tone wood and being able to tap the wood and listen to what it sounds like, and that translates, you know, it's going to translate through the guitar to the amplifier. So it's important stuff. So when he talks, I listen. He knows what he's talking about. I remember even Guthrie Goldman saying, you know, he's a guitar player, right? Saying like, John recommended this one kind of wood. I wanted to go this other way, but then, you know, I tried both guitars once they were done, and, you know, this is the one that he recommended was exactly what I wanted, what I was explaining tonally. And he's like, this is what happens when you listen to John Suhr, and this other guitar is what happens when you don't. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, the guy's just a, you know, wealth of knowledge when it comes to this stuff. So, okay, what new product release from NAMM did I like? Well, the one that comes to mind initially is the aux amp top box from UA. So I have to get one and try it. Just for my workflow, it seems like really incredible. A really amazing piece of equipment. I think they really knocked it out of the park. And I met and talked with James Santiago, who designed it, was largely responsible, I think. And it seems so useful and great. They really did a great job in sort of difficult NAMM environment too of demonstrating it. They had a deluxe reverb and an old Marshall, like a 70 with a 412, and they were showing how you can attenuate the amplifiers through their internal speakers, or in the case of the Marshall, the 412 cabinet, bring it down to a nice level, and it sounds, you know, especially with the deluxe, for a minute he hit a chord but full volume, okay, there it is, and then attenuated, and it was like, yeah, it sounds great, like still nice and chimey. Amps sounded intact. And he goes, but then of course you can load it all the way, and now we can listen to it through the PA with, and then they bring in the, you know, the kind of their mic modeling and all that stuff, and with the room modeling, and you had a little PA up there. So it was like, wow, it really kind of does everything. It's an attenuator, it's a load box, it's got this really sophisticated software integration with the, you know, the microphones and the cabinets, and it sounds good, and it's like, seems like next level. So so I can't wait to try that. It's not going to be for everybody because it's expensive, relatively speaking. You know, it's $1,200, $1,300 or whatever it is, I think. You know, Suhr Reactive Load sounds great. You guys know I've used it for years, and it's $399. You can get that and then get some IRs, and you're rolling. This is another thing. You know, I see it as two different, both usable, both great results. You know, but it is really, it seems like it's kind of the Rolls Royce of attenuation, load, and microphone, you know, kind of modeling. It's not IRs. It's actually they call it dynamic speaker modeling or something. So you can simulate the sound of the speaker getting driven harder, which IRs don't actually capture. It's the one thing you can't really capture, like distortion and compression characteristics in an impulse response. Okay, let's see. Getting some more stuff here. I'm going to try and move quicker. Kurt says, recording songs using a Fractal X8 into a DAW. Do I feel I can tell the difference in recordings made between using Fractal or a real amp and guitar that is mic'd? I don't know. Not really. I mean, it's not about that as much. Like, to me, it's about the music. If the song sounds great, it doesn't matter how you got there. Maybe you did it with plugins. Maybe you did it with a real amp and a microphone in a room. I don't really think about it when I listen. I guess sometimes when I listen, it's like, oh, that sounds like a model, or there's like a flatness to it or something. You know, but I don't. They're great nowadays. I mean, I did the the Into the Ether on Guitar Nerd way back in 2011 was done, and I probably recorded it in 2009 or 10, and that was done using the original Axe Effects. I really like that song. I think it turned out good. No, I did the whole song with the Axe Effects. I don't think about it when I listen to it, or how it was done. Really, I just think it turned out cool. So, yeah, as long as the music's good. Which isn't to say, I still love amps and the air and moving air and stuff like that. It's like the experience of playing the modeled sounds isn't as fun for me, right? It's not as it's just not as fun. Like, I like playing a real amp with the speaker in a cabinet there and feeling it in the room and all that stuff. So I think more the thing would be with the recording is like, I find that more, not that I'm saying I can't be inspired by using but it just, that real organic thing of playing with the cabinet and the amp and everything is it might affect your playing and the way that you play and the way that you play off of the amplifier. And the other thing is, you're not going to get the same kind of feedback and interaction with the amplifier that you might with the loud Marshall or whatever in the room, the cabinet. The way that those old songs that we all love and know were recorded, the way those tones were achieved was a big part of why rock guitar was like a force, because it was like, it was dangerous, it was loud, and it was crazy and kind of dynamic and all that stuff. I don't really feel it's the same using modelers. I think modelers serve a different purpose, where it's like to get the job done. They're great for that. But as far as that raw, that visceral, like, impact or whatever, like, imagine Hendrix recording or something, or Van Halen with that amp on 10. That's a big part of the inspiration for you as a player, to me, was that thing, And a lot of people, man, they don't know. Like, a lot of younger guitar players these days, they've just never done it. You can be amazing guitar players, but they've never maybe played an amp like that. And I think that's, unfortunate in a way. I've talked about it before, not to harp on it, but it's like the difference is a lot of people using an amp on one these days, set very clean and quiet, and then they get all their tone out of pedals. That's sort of like a lot of young guitar players think, well, that's just how you do it. And it's there's so many pedals on the market these days, and overdrives. Everybody's like, what pedal do you use for drive? And it's like, we didn't used to do that. It was like, maybe add a drive to your already rocking amp sound. That was how it was done, and that's just how a lot of the great shit was recorded back in the days. When rock guitar was, super, like, the thing. So I just don't want to lose that. It's important. Start the Rebellion says, "We love you, Pete. I love you too." I do. Somebody from Spokane, somebody from Virginia. What are my thoughts about the gear page? I think the gear page is great, and the reason is it can be a little stodgy at times if I have to, like, criticize. Like, the rules are tight and stuff like that. But because the rules are tight, it has persevered all the way till now, when many of the forums have descended into just a mess, right? So they did the right thing, I think, at the end of the day. That's the ultimate outcome has been that, because that they're really strict on, you can't talk politics, you can't talk religion, you can't attack other people, you can't, and if you do, you get nailed really quickly. And because of that, you go in there and you obey the rules, or you don't last. And I think that's allowed it to actually thrive in the long run. So I think it's great. I don't go there as much as I used to, although I've been looking a little bit more recently. I used to spend more time on there, but it is a cool resource, you know. I mean, man, I'll tell you what. Like many times, I need an answer to something. Like, how do you do the MIDI on this effect unit, or so, or how do you know? I have some question, and I'll Google it, and one of the first things that pops up is some answer on the gear page where somebody's asked a similar question, and there it is, and it could be back 4 years ago or something, but there's an answer. Somebody's got it figured out. It's a great resource. So overall, you know, it's not perfect, but it's one of the best forums and one of the most popular forums for a reason, I think. You know, I've seen a lot of terrible stuff on and it's unfortunate because I used to like it, but like Reg Talk, and there's a lot of, you know, a lot of hateful, awful shit on there. That's just, I don't like that energy, so I don't really look at it anymore. That's too bad because I liked going there. It was cool. It was a little more like the metal, you know, forum or whatever, a little bit more the hard rock guys and stuff. I used to like it, but you know, it was just kind of, I don't need that kind of negative, you know. Some of the other ones that were good were the Metro forum, and I haven't looked at it in recent years, but it was really cool, especially for like amp knowledge, you know. Or like martial experts on there and stuff. Okay. Hello from Vancouver Island. First live show you've caught. That's awesome. Hi, Vancouver Island. I love that place. If you guys haven't been to Vancouver Island, that is a magic place. Just go check it out. It's so gorgeous. My folks actually lived there for a little bit. Down by Victoria, they lived in a place called Brentwood Bay for a little while. And I would go visit them there. They ended up leaving, going back to where we were from in Alberta, but it was a gorgeous spot, and I enjoyed the few times I visited them when they lived there, and walking around is just beautiful. It's just, you know, nature, and I love Vancouver. I love BC. BC is incredible. It's you know, BC is the size of Oregon, Washington, and California combined, from what I understand. And most of the population is all centered right down there in the bottom in Vancouver, and the rest of it is, imagine that, Oregon, Washington, and California combined. This vast expanse of wilderness, basically, and it's just one of the most beautiful places on earth. So I'm a big fan of BC. Would love to live there someday. I almost moved there at one point. You know, it rains a lot, but other than that, it's so great. Love visiting. One of my favorite cities in the world is Vancouver, for sure. Best places on earth. What new products am I digging from this year's NAMM? Well, I already brought up the aux. Well, let me think about what else I saw. I mean, the Aura, obviously, big fan of that. Oh, there's a new bridge that I'm going to be looking at this week. It's a Wilkinson bridge, and more to come on that. But that thing looks amazing. Yeah. As far as staying in tune and looking like a Strat bridge, still. Yeah, man. So I'm going to check out that. It's going to be a good thing, I think. I heard of an overdrive pedal up at Fender that sounded good. They brought out some pedals this year that kind of brushed aluminum-looking enclosures, and there was this red overdrive pedal. I thought it sounded great. So they said that maybe they're going to get in touch with me to make a video of it or something. It was all about that. What else? What else was cool? Josh Smith has a cool new fuzz pedal with Vimram that it's got an expression pedal, and you can kind of like run 2 amps and blend the fuzz in just on one, or it's got an effects loop. So what was the loop for? I can't remember. You have to go look at the Vimram site, but maybe you could just affect the fuzz with an effect or something. It was unique. It was cool. It had a big Neve looking knob on it. I thought that was neat. A Neve console. Talk more about the Suhr Les Paul. Okay, what do you guys want to know? You can ask me about it. It's got Thornbucker Plus in the bridge, and the standard Thornbucker neck pickup. All of them were, if anybody's wondering about the weight, all of the ones he made were well under 9 pounds. A couple were under 8, I think, and a couple were just over 8, like 8.2, 8.3. Right in there. They're going to be hard to get for a while because John's mainly building them. Finishes, I think, you know, the ones at the show were prototypes, so those were just the first 4 that they, you know, knocked out. So I'm sure that they'll kind of hone in more of the specs as time goes. So So I don't even know how much, you've basically seen it, you know, the best, it's got really nice tuners on it. They've got these locking tuners. I'm not sure what, you know, John said they make them for them. I'm not sure who the company is, but really nice. The bridge and tailpiece on those ones at the show are Tone Pros. What else? Oh, so the volume control is, for the bridge pickup, is the one closest to the bridge. So that might be confusing for some, you know, Les Paul owners, but the thing is, you ever play the Les Paul where you can do pinky swells? It's awesome. It's like really cool. So it's kind of worth the getting used to the new thing. You can just, he positioned it perfectly for, you know, sitting on the bridge and doing pinky swells. John always he likes that. So that was something that he wanted to do. You know, it's not a Les Paul. It's a you know, sort of inspired by, but based, you know, that's doing different things. So that's one of the different things, as well as the straighter string pull, a little bit less headstock angle, and all that good stuff. If there's anything else you want to know about it in particular, ask me, I would say. Hello from Oslo. What's up, Norway? I was just hanging out a lot with Leo from Frog Leap. We got to hang out for a couple days. Such a great guy. Frog Leap Studios, you know, the awesome YouTube channel. Norway. He's from Norway. And Gary says, good to see you. Greetings from Northern Ireland. Awesome. Never been up there. Gotta get up there sometime. I've only been to Dublin, but I've never been to, like, you know, Belfast or. I'd love to go. My NAMM highlight. Me, you know, seeing friends. This is the main highlight. But yeah, I've already sort of told you, I guess, the most exciting. I mean, we brought up the new color for my guitar was, I think, looks really great. I only got to see it for like one day before it went to the show. I was like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. The black back and the kind of satin black gray neck, and that, you know, ocean turquoise top, which I think it looks awesome. So I'm gonna go out next week, and you know, probably pick up that guitar and also want to experiment with that bridge I was mentioning. Maybe try it on that guitar, so we'll see. But see what that's like. Do I manage myself or do I have assistants? That's from Jerry. Right now I'm all on my own, but I've been talking with somebody about maybe helping me out with that, because it's getting to be a little crazy. I'm not the most organized person, so I could use some help. What did I think of the Roland unit? You know, so I didn't really get a good chance to check it out. I did write some presets for that unit. So Roland came by my studio with it, but it was in a very preliminary stage of the software, so I was having somebody else run the unit and kind of do everything that I needed to do because of where the software was at on it. So Roland typically, I mean, they make great stuff, and it's going to be cool. All of their, you know, the GT100 was cool, and you know, unique, useful, awesome products. So I don't know really where it's at, to tell you the truth, as far as like how finished. I went to the Boss booth for a minute, but and they had them there and they were on display, but I did, yeah. Beyond that, I didn't really, you know, I got more hands-on, is what I'm saying, with the Helix HX than I did with the Boss unit. They both sound really good though, so I have yet to really try it deeply. Say. Treble bleed versus 50s wiring. On a Les Paul, I'm just going to say 50s wiring. I did have a Les Paul for a while with my black custom. I had a treble bleed cap just on the neck pickup. I don't really feel the need for that anymore if I'm using a Thornbucker in the neck. And I like the 50s wiring. It stays plenty chimey to me with the 50s wiring, and true 500K pots is important. Okay, tips on using compression on drums and guitar, some general guidelines, new to recording. So on drums, you have to be careful using compression, because if there's a lot of cymbals in it, like, so for example, if you're compressing an entire drum kit, you have to watch it, because the cymbals are going to get louder. That's the one thing. You know, so compressing individual drums is easier. It's not such an issue. You have to watch the attack time. So like on snares and kicks and stuff like that, you want the punch to stay intact, and then, you know, so I find setting the attack, I adjust the attack until I can hear the punch, and it's not getting clipped and, you know, like destroyed, the dynamic impact. I want to hear the punch and then have the compression kick in, you know, right? So that initial So that the milliseconds or whatever that you set the attack at is kind of crucial. So be careful of that. Compression on room sounds. You know, if you do a slow attack and fast release, that's how you get that gushy, big, fat room sounds. So you can try that if you've got a, you know, if you've recorded a drum kit or you have a drum program that allows you to split the output separately, so you get kick, snare, overheads, room separated. Try using the slow attack and fast release on the rooms, and that's going to give you that great big. So it became very popular in like the 90s to do that, especially with distressors with the nuke setting, you know, like the sort of infinite limiting or whatever they call it, infinite ratio. And people would smash the hell out of the room, you know, and that kind of blended in behind the kit. It can be cool. Parallel compression can be cool, so like where you might have your drum kit not compress the overall two mix of the drums, but then you could send out to another compressor and maybe even distort is cool. Like use like a plug-in like the, I like to use, the hell's it called? From, oh my god, can't think. I think I need more coffee. Oh my god, it's from the people who make the Echo Boy. I'm going to find it here just a second. Give me just a second. I can't believe I can't remember the name of this thing. Just one sec. Looking for the name of the company. Sound Toys. And Sound Toys makes this other plugin. Sorry guys, just one second. Wrong. Decapitator. Thank you. Okay, Decapitator plugin is your and it's from Sound Toys. It's an amazing plugin for distorting anything, drums, vocals, you know, even guitar, bass. If you feel like it's not dirty enough or something, you can use a Decapitator. So Decapitator on drums can be a great thing. You know, and you just mix it in with the clean kit. There's some great stuff. You know, that you can get by doing that. So check all that out. I didn't even bring up guitar. Sorry, I should have talked about guitar. Kind of compression on guitar is interesting. Like, do you compress before the amp, or do you want to compress an already recorded signal? If I'm doing that, I usually do very light, kind of with an 1176, and I try and make it kind of unobtrusive. Sometimes an LA2A plugin or something can be really nice on clean guitars. Just set it so that it's, you know, giving you 3 or 4 dB of gain reduction or something like that. It pumps up the cleans a little bit, makes them sound a little more luxurious. And it's the simplest compressor to use in the world. There's only like a gain reduction and an output knob, so that can be really nice. Dirty guitars I don't generally use. If I compress dirty guitars, it's very little, maybe just a dB or 2 of gain reduction. I might use an 1176, and it just kind of gives it a little more, like it does something cool to the tone. Have I had a chance? David's asking, have I had a chance to check out the aux from Universal Audio? I think it's called the aux, right? Not the OX. It's called the aux, the top box. I'd listen to it at NAMM. Yeah, they give me a really great demo of it. The guy there in the booth, really thorough demo. So it sounded great. I haven't played it personally. I'm going to get one next week, I think. Can't wait. Did I buy that vintage Les Paul in Japan? Charlie's asking. No, sir. I did not. Am I going to demo the Marshall Origin amps? You know, I would love to demo amps. I'm just not sure, to be honest. Like, I've avoided it, right, because of my relationship with Suhr and having a signature amp with them. It's something I want to talk to them about. Because I would love to open it up and be able to occasionally demo an amplifier outside of you know, my signature stuff. And I feel like I'm limiting myself a little bit by not doing that, to be honest. So it's something that I want to discuss with them. It was an ethical decision I made years ago. It's like, well, I have a signature amp. Let me get more coffee and bring you guys with me. I have a signature amp, so should I be, you know, sort of demoing other things, thereby promoting it? Is that a bad thing to do when a company's kind of, you know, been so nice to have a signature product? So, you know, to develop one with me. But I don't know. It seems like maybe at this point, I see folks like, Rob Chapman and stuff. He's got his own guitar brand, but he obviously, occasionally does videos with other guitars. And maybe it's, I've used the amp, the PT100 amp faithfully now for almost 10 years. So it's obviously what I use live and mostly in the studio, and it's my choice. I don't know if that should, prevent me from doing other, playing other amplifiers, occasionally doing videos, basically. So we'll see. I was talking with Mark Tremonti yesterday at the show. He's a super nice guy. I love Mark. He's just a sweet guy and such a, obviously a great player. And he said, I really want to send you my amp, make a video and stuff. And he was with the guy from PRS, and I was like, yeah. And I was thinking, God, that would be cool. And I didn't say no, but I was like, so it's something that maybe I'll talk to the folks at Suhr this week and see if we can figure out something. I don't know. I think it'd be cool to be able to do some amp videos. I miss doing, it's mainly just pedals that I do, right? So it'd be fun to experiment and do that. Okay, what else? D. Snape says thinking of replacing the pickups in a 2016 Les Paul Standard. Any reason my Thorn buckers would not be awesome? Only if you want a different thing, if you want a JB or something. It's not that. And he said, P.S. I'm not stupid. I was pretty stupid today, man. I drank soap. For those that didn't tune in, right at the beginning. Yeah, I was trying to wash my coffee maker, and I maybe left a little bit of dish soap in there. Didn't make me feel very good. I got bubbles coming up. A little bit of bubbles. Hello from Japan. What's up? Konnichiwa. Well, what time is it there? It's nighttime, right? So, konbanwa. Good to see you. And let's see what else. Hometown Edmonton. Michael, what's up? Good to see you. From Wales here, loving the new color of your signature guitar. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of maybe a weird color for only the third color, the ocean turquoise, but I loved it, so I was like, let's go with it. And I think it's really cool. I love how it turned out. So I think it's nice. So 430 people online. I'm super stoked with that. It's excellent. Leon says, have a hedgehog that he absolutely loves, but he finds there's no edge of breakup setting. Suggestions on a pedal into the clean channel that would give you Badger-like edge of breakup. Sure. So two that you might try are the Jan Ray, or I just opened the can of worms, but the Timmy maybe. I've never tried a Timmy actually, but that style of pedal can be really great for that. Another one would be really easy one to find would be the OCD. I kind of like sometimes for a edge of breakup. And what's the other one? My Analog Man, King of Tone, or the Prince of Tone, which is the single channel, clean channel side of the King of Tone. Love that sound for the edge of breakup kind of thing. And if you want to hear what it sounds like, go watch the Melissa Etheridge rig rundown video I did it was at a theater in Long Beach. And you can hear me playing the King of Tone pedal through the Jim Kelly amp, which was set clean. And you'll hear my edge of breakup sound and see if you like it on there. It's kind of the best demo I could give you of that pedal. Really, really beautiful kind of edge of breakup, for a rootsy kind of edge tone. I think it's great. So, excuse me. Either that or the Jan Ray is great too. Okay. Fernando's saying, this is an interesting question. Did I say I owned a Seymour Duncan convertible amp and I didn't like it? No, I never owned a convertible. My good friend Al Vermew had 3 of them and used to use them in actually an early, he was one of the first guys I ever saw doing wet, dry, wet. This is in the 80s. And he had convertibles and he made those things sound great. I've got a picture of him. He brought him over to my house one time when I was a kid. And, we were friends. He was like 10 years older than me, but we were guitar player buddies. Used to hang out, so he brought all his amps over to my place one time. We hooked them all up, 3 amps, and plugged them all in. They sounded great, those amps. The way he used them, because they had those preamp modules that you could, if you guys never saw the Seymour Duncan convertibles, you could pop these modules in and out and kind of hot rod the amp on the fly. It's kind of an interesting, cool design. It's tube rectified. think they were 60 watts or 100 watts. Can't remember. Queen Lizzie says, just got here. Pete talking about the Helix FX. Yeah, it's cool. It's the Helix FX without the modeling, amp modeling, basically. And I think it's great. I want it. Useful. Have I tried this new Suhr singlecut? Yeah, so when the first one was built, I got to plug it in the very first day that it kind of had strings on it and stuff, and was set up. And, it's kind of a thrill, you know. I mean, they've been trying to get to the point where they can make those guitars for a long time, and so to see them finally do it was really thrilling. You know, very different guitar for them, and I was really happy for John. Let's see, Romano from Venezuela. Which guitar player tone, not ability, impressed me in the beginning? Yours were May and Blackmore. Yes, certainly those guys were, you know, Brian May's tone. You know, we didn't really think about it back then. It was just like part of every guitar player. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a guitar player when I started playing guitar that didn't have some crazy cool tone. Every guy had his tone. So when I remember back then, it would be like for sure it was Van Halen early on. You know, the first stuff I got into was not hard rock. It was like Beatles and the Who and stuff. So Townsend and his approach, and you know the Who, the kind of the power of the Who, like was, you know, that raw kind of like cleaner tone, but still gritty, but not with a ton of sustain, just ballsy. So I loved Pete. He was like my first guitar influence, real guitar influence. AC/DC, Stevie Ray Vaughan was just coming out, you know, and that was like, I couldn't believe how he sounded, you know, that like the power. And I always had a real affinity for the guitar players that had a kind of a powerful, clean. Like Stevie Ray Vaughan, I never even really heard the distortion. It was there, but when I was a kid, I didn't perceive it as being dirty. You know, even when he had the tube screamer on or whatever, it just sounded like big, powerful clarity to me. Balls, you know. It was like, I always loved that. And I guess Townsend was different but similar, you know, in his style. So Angus Young, but then I remember loving, you know, Alex Lifeson, and also like even like the Pretenders, like, you know, Middle of the Road and stuff. Remember that guitar solo in that, or the you know, Back on the Chain Gang, or like those kinds of songs with the jangly chorusy thing going on. That sounded, you know, I loved all that stuff too. So I didn't, you know, and even, you know, like Prince and stuff blew me away too. So I loved even the sort of, you know, pop or rock or R&B end of things, you know, that, you know, classic, you know, all the way back to the Beatles and stuff like that. And then, you know, I got into the hard rock stuff too, and always that, you know, was blowing my mind too. So, you know, but everybody sounded cool back then. They all had unique. That's the thing these days. Once again, you know, it's like I don't feel like the guitar players have as unique tones these days. The guitars become more like a keyboard, right? Like think about guitar and like popular music. You see bands with guitars up there, but it's like this background bullshit, you know, that kind of like isn't as this prominent visceral force that, you know, it used to be in every band. You know, Alex Lifeson, Brian May, Pete Townsend, Eddie Van Halen, you know, Michael Jackson, you know, think about, you know, Billie Jean, or, you know, down, up, down, 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 down. I mean, that was like in that style. That guitar was like, you know, amazing. So I don't know, man. You know, it's just we could bring that back. Guitar players with unique tones being at the, you know. Anybody check out Black Rebel Motorcycle Club this week? That was my thing last week. I was telling everybody to go listen to Baby 81, talking about great guitar and cool, you know, badass tones and songs. So hi from Lebanon. Wow, cool. I've never been to Lebanon. I'd love to go to Lebanon. I've been to you know, different countries in the region there, but I've never been to Lebanon. It'd be cool to go. All right. Looking down through questions. Eric's asking about any chance the Aura will show up in one of my demos. I can't wait to get one. I got to get it online, you know. So definitely, I mean, I want one of those guitars. It's you know, like I say, he's made that style of guitar and fixed all the problems. So Henrique is asking, because Jennifer's saying go download Dirty Town, and Henrique is asking, could you link it? So if you go to my webpage, just PeteThorn.com. There's a page there. You know, you can see it right on the homepage. I think there's a link, and it'll take you to all the. You can just search for it too on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever. It's going to pop up. It's everywhere. I decided to stream it, and you know, it's just available for streaming, and it's also on YouTube. And it's on iTunes, and so Amazon. If you so desire, you can buy it for 99 cents. Yes. Okay, let's see. Did I track the new song using Line 6 stuff? Yeah, so I used the PT100, the reactive load, and I used the Line 6 in kind of a quasi 4-cable method, and hosted the IR is hosted in the Helix, and I also used the drives and the I used like the Octafuzz in the solo, in the first solo in the song. So yeah. Do I have a bass amp or just record DI? I just record DI. I don't own a bass amp. I use, these days I'm using that Geddy Lee TIC-21 preamp, which is killer. I just got it hardwired into 2 inputs on my my UA, and I just print both tracks, kind of a cleaner and a dirty one, and then I blend them when I go to mix. That thing's awesome. So you saw maybe a demo of it recently. If you watch my YouTube, I did a, with John Button, we did a YYZ. Played through that bass pretty. It's great. Killer. I also sometimes use the Helix. That was what I was using mainly up until I got the Geddy Lee, and it works great too. I just got the Geddy Lee thing, and it's like my new toy. So I'm using that mainly now just because it's great. But the Helix bass amps are great too. Really nice. The bass 400 in the Helix is killer. I loaded in some IRs from Hammer, I think, 410 cabinet ones, and just use them with that and that. So many of the demos up till like about a month ago or a month and a half ago were all that for like the last year. Any tips for songwriters in LA? I don't know really. I mean, I don't. Sometimes there's this songwriter nights, and obviously Hotel Cafe and like that kind of venue, like where it's a lot of singer songwriters going down playing, just going out, meeting people, try and get in with with a crowd. When I first got to LA, it took a minute. Like I basically. I played out as much as I could, got in a cover band, and then like just met people. I was looking through, this is like pre-internet. It was like I was looking through the Recycler in LA for bands, and I would go audition, and just like I think people look on Craigslist and stuff now if they don't know anybody. Just go like check out bands. You got to do whatever you can do, like make mistakes, go and audition for some crappy band, or maybe it'll be an amazing band. You never know. Get involved with different musical things and just kind of networking, meeting people, making friends. That's all it is, Happy to hear the Thornbuckers will be available in Chrome now. Yeah, we decided to make them like with the different covers. Just bear in mind, that to us the ultimate sound was the raw nickel. The gold is going to be the worst offender as far as dulling the tone a little bit, but you can do it, and maybe it won't bother you. Maybe you'll actually like it. Yeah, that's from somebody saying they want to get them for their Simto wants to get them for their DG3335. I should try that in my DG3035. Put some Thornbuckers in it. It's just got the original pickups in it. Guitar Nerd 2 anytime soon. Yes, Stuart. My goal is to finish this record now I've got a single out. And so that was supposed to be, okay, now you've got to kick your own ass to get your record done. Because you put the single out already. So 30 to 45 days, I would love to have it, by, I'm going to be working on it later today, basically. I got to get it done and get it out. And I'm well into it, and I'm really stoked with it. So, just a matter of finishing some things up, getting the mixes done, master, boom, put it out. And there's been a desire from some people for physical CDs, so I will do a limited run of physical CDs. I don't even have anything. I guess I can play a CD in that. I have a DVD player over there, a Blu-ray player. I could play a CD in that. Nowhere else do I have an ability to play a CD. Oh, maybe my car's got a CD player. I guess it does. They still put CD players in cars sometimes. It has a CD slot. I forgot about that. But I don't have anywhere at home other than my home kind of TV setup over here where I could play a CD anymore. So I know some people still dig them. Okay, and somebody's saying, yeah, go to Pete's Facebook page. There's a post that Jennifer's saying. There's a post with a smart link that goes to every place to stream down. Well, that's true. Pinned to the top of my Facebook music page is a link that will take you to all the places to get Dirty Town. Okay, Kelly says, at your clinic in Calgary, so inspiring. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great subject matter and presentation. Hope others get to see more of those. I hope so too. I talked to some people from like Ottawa, and you know, we've been talking to Toronto and different places trying to get out there and do it. And then also there was a fellow I met from a store in Oklahoma, and yeah, I think would be awesome if I can get out and do more of that this year. So, what Fender amps do I own? Just my Bassman, I guess. My '66 Bassman head. That's the only Fender I have. What do I think about the Ibanez RGA series with tremolo? I don't have one, or I don't really know that much about them, to tell you the truth. Somebody's asking about Paulo in Big Wreck. Did they replace Paulo? You know, I don't think so. I think he decided he wanted to do other things, and so he left, and then they've just been touring as a, I guess, a four-piece, right? Yeah, doing it like that. So Thomas B says, killer new single. Thank you. So stoked to have it out. And feels great to have some new music out that I'm really proud of. With some amazing players that helped me out on it. How much time did it take to build my social media following, says Wilmer. You know, it kind of exponentially builds, I find, like more than ever. Like I remember when I had 50,000 YouTube subscribers, and it's not that long ago, and now it's 115 or 16 or something. So that seems like it was maybe 2 years ago tops. And so my YouTube channel's been out for 10 years. So it went to 50, and then you know, it sort of picks up. Hopefully that continues. You know, I've seen people like on Instagram build. You know, like Ariana's Instagram, for example. Ariana Powell. I'm a big fan of. Her Instagram's growing like radically. Like, I don't know. The last time I looked at it, let's take a look. Last time I looked at it, I think it was at like 21,000 subscribers, something like that. Which, you know, let me see. She now has 25. And last time I remember seeing it was like, whoa, she's got 20,000 subscribers, and that's not even that long ago. It's probably like, you know, 3 weeks ago or something. So she's picked up another 5,000. And you know, it really is like if you look at Mateus's, which is he's got, I don't know, 450, or like I wonder what he's at. Like last time I looked, it was 425 or 450. He now has 451. So 451,000. You know, it's amazing. I think that the thing with Mateus and people like that is they're just so damn good that it's the quality of the content. It's always about the quality of the content, and then it just goes the viral thing. You know, it's like if you put out good stuff, it just blows up. I was talking to Leo from Frog Leap the other day about his first when he was doing the metal covers, and you know, Frog Leap Studios. If you haven't seen his great, awesome YouTube page, go check it out. You're probably aware of it though. He said he put up a video. It was a Lady Gaga song, I believe. And he decided to do this heavy metal cover of it, and he put it out. It got 1 million views or something. He was like, "Oh, I'm on to something," you know. And then he just knew, you know, that was his thing. There it was. There was the whatever the formula. The you know, you have to figure out what your unique thing is. And if you get something that's cool that people want to see, then boom, it just goes. You don't even have to try that hard almost at that point, I think. Okay. Let's see here. Still toying with the Kemper. Yeah, I wouldn't say toying. I use it for work. I do sessions and stuff. If I did get a session here at home, it's with the, you know, I use the Kemper and the Helix. That's what I do. It's just a little rig that I ended up with, and it works good for here in this limited space. Let's see. Edmar says from Brazil, what guitars T-top pickups are better? Sorry, I don't understand. I do like T-tops, which are kind of like the, you know, the what came after PAFs and patent number pickups. They're sort of the, I think of them as low output Alnico 5, kind of brighter, brighter yet aggressive, Angus Young or whatever. Humbuckers, Gibson pickups from like the late 60s and to the, through the early 70s or whatever, mid 70s. I don't know, when did they stop making T-tops? When did they become, is it where there's all the way through the early 80s? I'm not actually sure. I always think of them as being late 60s pickups. Let's see here. Yeah, T Crane I always sort of answered, but says, great song, Denise. Thank you. Really good work. Will I be doing physical copies or download? I'll do both. First I'll put it out digitally this time, but then I'm going to do a limited CD release where I probably sign them all, include some pics or something like that. I'll try and do something fun, special, and do maybe 300 or something like that. Okay, Jelloman's asking about Alnico 4 pickups and humbuckers compared to Alnico 2 and Alnico 5. There's many other things that go into pickup design, but if I had to generalize, I would say Alnico 4s sound really balanced to me through the lows, the mids, and the highs. Alnico 5 has a little bit bigger bottom end, a little bit more aggressive top, treble presence, and Alnico 2 to me generally sounds warmer, like a little more mid forward. I think Alnico 2 is like softer, lower output, more mids. Alnico 4 balanced. Alnico 5 big bottom, big top, a little less mids. That's a generalization because there's so many other factors that affect the tone of a pickup. Maybe that would be the thing, and if you had one pickup, all other things created equal, and you swap the magnets, that would be, I think, what you would hear. Okay, maybe just a mistyping, have ever used a Hot Rails for telly? Wondering if I found a better pickup that compresses a little less. I was never really a fan of the rail, like the rail type pickups. They're too different to me compared to a, I just wasn't a fan of trying to make the humbucker in the single coil size or whatever, I guess. It's kind of weird to me, I don't know, so I never did that. Like, if you're asking about a hot pickup in a single coil size, no, I don't really know. I didn't really do that. I never tried like a single coil size to try and get the humbucker tone. So I don't really have a perspective. Duncan made the little 59 and the little JB and stuff. I don't really know. I don't have a perspective on those pickups. I'm sorry. Let's see. Amon says, big fan of your playing. Who are my biggest influences? Are there any songs, lessons in particular you feel really helped you achieve your phrasing? Like for me, it was all about, I mentioned some of the guitar players. I really came from like Pete Townsend and stuff, and then beyond that, I got into the hard rock stuff and folks like Van Halen and things, and then later on became way more aware of people like Landau. And, to me, phrasing like Mike is the king. I'll say I had the benefit of and I just saw my old friend Mark Goldenberg the other day, who I love. He was, such a great guitar player, and probably you guys, if you're watching my page, I don't know if you know about Mark, but check out Mark Goldenberg. Beautiful, beautiful guitar playing, and he was so, this is like sort of my formative years. I was listening to these players that played with so much melodicism and vocal quality in their playing. And, like I say, later on became aware of players like Jeff Beck and stuff. So just listen to people like that. Listen to Jeff Beck on like 'Cause We Ended as Lovers or something. That's like, you can't phrase better than that. It's just like the vocal quality is like a singer singing. So, yeah. Okay, so we've done about an hour and 20. I'm going to get going pretty soon, so I got some work to do today, but wind it up in 10 minutes or something. Do I use the loop reordering on the Musicom Lab Mark V? Not yet. I haven't found a need to do it yet, but I'm sure that'll happen at some point. Probably most likely when I use the Mobius for something where I want it to be right at the end of the chain, because it's in loop 3 of my Musicom, and there might be something that I do obviously where I want to use the chorus or something, and it's in front of the overdrive right now. I might want to move it to the end, but I haven't found a need yet. What's next? Do I always play in stereo? Generally, if I can. I like to play in stereo. Not always, though. You know, if I go to a local gig or something and I bring an amp and a paddleboard, I'm doing something tomorrow where I'm just going to run mono. Yeah. Yeah. Because just out of, you know, can't fit all that stuff in my car. Dave says he has a KF50 Limited and love it. That's a great amp. That was the Ken Fisher Komet. You know, it was the precursor to the Komet Concorde. Basically, they made these limited run of the first 50 watts that became the Concorde. That's a special amp you have. I'm sure you'll never sell. Can I talk about backup amp options? This is from Gil when gigging. Yeah, so my backup, you know, if basically you're going to be playing on a great big stage, like my backup plan recently has been to use the little Atomic Amps amplifier box, which you can basically is like a little 2-channel amp modeler that has a boost for each channel. And I thought, okay, I need to build a little like pedal train mini board with a tuner, that thing, and then maybe like an H9, you know, so I can have a bit of delay or something. And then I've got 4 foot switchable gain levels inside that little pedal and some simple effects, and I'll just run that right to the PA, and if my whole rig went down, I could just plug into that thing and I'd have some sounds. So that's one option. Check out the little amplifier box. But if you're talking about using an amp on stage and you want to have the speaker volume stuff, you know, amp actually generating sound, backup, I would probably look into one of those, you know, maybe one of those quilter heads or something. Like maybe that's a good way to go. Little, you know, or the like a preamp pedal like the Ethos or something with the Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170 or whatever the hell it's called. You know, something like that. There's all these options now for basically you don't have to have a full amp. So especially if you have a separate speaker cabinet, you could go that route. Lots of good options. What do I use for drum sounds when recording? Mainly these days it's been Steven Slate for a long time, but I also use Easy Drummer 2 quite a bit lately. I guess there's an Easy Drummer 3 out. I should probably get that, but Easy Drummer 2 has been working good. Next vintage guitar in my future, who knows? You never know. I get the wild. Somebody sent me a link to a 54 Les Paul the other day, which I've wanted for years because I sold my old one, like a bonehead way back a long time ago, and it was actually a pretty good price. And I'm like, oh God, don't send me that stuff. I don't want to buy it. I'd love to have a real 50s Les Paul again. I really would. Do I record my guitar tracks for my stuff in stereo? Sometimes, not always. Rarely, actually, but sometimes. So I did on Dirty Town. You know, I tracked with 2 tracks going in with maybe a little bit of ambience and stereo. Largely because on Dirty Town, what I was going for was one guitar the whole way through the song, except for the bridge, where it obviously opens up and turns into this vast expanse of, you know, there's guitar synth and stuff in there. I use the Fishman guitar synth. You know, for some of the sounds. But I basically wanted the kind of Satch Boogie thing where it was like one guitar the whole way through until it hits the middle. Yeah. Let's see. Delay setting starting point for the front of the amp. Delay setting starting point for running in front of an amp. This is from Charlie. Use a darker kind of delay, something that rolls off the high end a bit, and don't go beyond 1 or 2 repeats is kind of the key. This is, you know, for a dirty amp. If you're running the amp kind of clean, or just on the edge of breakup, you can get away with longer delays. It's cool. But if you're running into a dirty amp, you need to make sure you don't, like, you know, and run the mix at below 15%. You know, that, and 1 repeat, 2 repeats tops. Eddie Van Halen style. You know, you can get away with that. Let's see here. What's my opinion for best solid-state distortion pedal for use with a clean amp for emulating an EVH Plexitone? Maybe the Plexitone. It's a great sounding pedal for that kind of high-gain Plexi-ish, you know, the Carl Martin Plexitone. There's also the BE OD can sound great for that, and the Lagrange. Those are the ones that come to mind. See, trying to figure out complex chords by ear when learning songs. Any tips for that? That's from Ethan Ricks. I use a phrase trainer, and I'll generally listen and just kind of play it over and over and over again. And process of elimination, I just try different voicings until I get it. And sometimes it can be difficult. My friend Yogi, who's, I was in Chris Cornell's band with, he's got really big ears, and sometimes I would try and learn some of Chris's sort of jazzier, tunes off Euphoria Morning stuff, and then I'd hit a chord and he'd go, no. I go, no, this is it. And he'd be like, And he because he's got a jazz background, he actually, and I'd play it, he'd show me, and I'd go, oh yeah, you're right, and I'd have one note out. So it's just a process of, you gotta like develop your ears to the point where you can, you can really hear it. And it really is, isolate a small part, just listen to that one chord that you're trying to get over and over and over again, and then just try and find the notes on the neck. That's what I do basically. If you listen to too many chords at once, you lose it. Same thing for single note phrases. You have to isolate it to a very small chunk to where you can really define, and then all of a sudden you start hearing it. I can't describe it any other way. Fast phrase, it'll start to sound slower. Your brain starts to, like, oh, I can hear it. This is the phrase. This is the phrasing, and these are the notes. That's what it would sound like to me anyway. Do I think Thornbuckers would be good for a metal or southern rock sound? I mean, a lot of like southern rock and early metal and stuff, it was T-tops, and it was like lower output pickups. So yeah, it's like, you hit your amp with a fuzz or with an overdrive or with a treble booster. It doesn't really matter at that point. So yeah, they could totally work. I mean, I play hard rock with them all the time. Okay, a couple more questions, and I'm going to run. Have I ever considered making a 40 or 50 watt combo of the PT100? Yes, absolutely. I think we need to have a combo for sure. What's the latest with Holly Henderson? I have to finish her record. I have to finish mixing it along with getting my own record out. So that's my goal now. February, March, getting these 2 records done. Well, getting a bunch of other work done too. But yeah, got to do that. The Suhr Aura seems like a killer guitar. Maybe an Aura PT signature in the future. I've got my own signature with them. I think the Aura should be, its own thing. But I definitely want to get one. Just as it is. It's a great guitar. So is the album nearly here? The album is nearly here. Let me get it done really quick. Okay, two more questions, and I'm gonna jet. Let's see. Somebody else is asking if I tried the aux amp top box. I got a really good demo of it from somebody at UA, and I'm very impressed. Next week, I'm gonna try it myself. Let's see. Two more. See, can you get your signature guitar with a flame top? No, I've never done that. I'm not really into the Strat flame top thing. It's not really what I like. I never really bonded with the whole, like, the sort of flame top on a Strat. To me, it looks great on a short scale single cut style guitar, and I just don't dig the flame top on a Strat. So that's why we do I don't know, just a traditionalist, I guess, or something. Sinto says the Sparkle Blue Suhr JM at NAMM has you going crazy. You need that guitar. Yeah, were you able to play it? Like, and man, the vibrato, it's got that mastery tremolo. This is the, Jazzmaster looking guitar that Suhr has. They put the mastery bridge, which is this incredible traditional Jazzmaster style bridge on, and it's really a great bridge. It stays in tune and feels awesome for like surfy, kind of swampy stuff. Really, really cool. Okay. Hedgehog 212 is stellar. Leon's asking, he has a Hedgehog 212, it's stellar. Any tips on a 112 that would get you nearly there? A Bella 112 and what speaker? Well, the Hedgehog 212 has the 65s in it, I think. The Selection 65, G12 65, so I would just get an open back 112 that's maybe a larger one and use that same speaker if you really dig that tone. Why mess with the formula? Okay. One more good deep question here. Sorry guys, it's a lot of questions I'm going to miss here if I sign off now, but I really actually kind of have to go. I've been going about an hour and a half, and let's see. Is 20 watt tube, this is a good question, is 20 watts tube loud enough to give bars without a microphone? Sometimes. It depends on the band you're playing in. I find bands settle in a lot around the drums. And it depends on the volume your drummer's playing at and kind of the volume of everybody else in the band. Sometimes 20 watts can work, and also if you don't mind a little grit in your tone, and if you're playing single coils. If you're playing humbuckers, 20 watts can be not enough headroom, I find sometimes. I think a really nice number is 40. 40 to 50 watts is a great amount of clean headroom, especially for rock and roll. You know, it's like you need a little more juice. But if you're doing something that's, you know, mellow, and, you know, singer-songwriter stuff, and it's mellower and it's kind of quiet, 20 watt, like a deluxe reverb, can be the perfect volume. It just depends. Can I recommend a similar amp to a Komet Concorde? Well, to me, it's almost like an extension of a Plexi, like a 50 watt Plexi. So similar. Lyle Workman, great guitar player, bought my first Komet Concorde. I kept my second one, and he bought that one, and he ended up using it a lot with his Marshall. And he said, you know, it's different enough from my Marshall that I can justify owning it, but it's still in the same wheelhouse. It's a different enough tone he loved. Like, for instance, double tracking apart and having the Marshall on one side and the Komet on the other side. So I thought that's kind of, you know, if you like Plexis, you'll dig it. What's your opinion on where pedals are headed? I did an article in Premier Guitar on that recently. And basically, like, I interviewed Robert Keeley and Thorn from TC, and Robert said he thinks it's all about blending different effects together in a pedal. So, for example, he just brought out a compressor and an overdrive in one pedal. I think he's also doing a delay that has flange on the delay tails. So he's seeing that kind of thing where there's lots of opportunity to blend traditional effects. And Thorn from TC, you know, they developed that mash technology recently where they've put an expression pedal basically in the foot switch for the pedal. And I think that that's a great example of where pedals could go. You know, you could take a traditional small pedal format and make an expression, and it's amazing. Those new Hall of Fame 2 and Flashback 2 and stuff with the expression and mash pedal. So there's two things. You know, there's still room for development, I think. Yeah. Joseph says, can't stay to watch, but love the single. Thank you guys for checking out the song this week. I have to run, I'm sorry, but I'll see you next time. Please join me again next time. And thanks for checking out my single this week. I really appreciate it. And also, please go check out the third Tone Life video. It's on Line 6's channel now. I'm going to post it on my channel next week. But it's all about songwriting and about creating songs, being creative and stuff like that. And that's my favorite one. It's sort of the one that's least focused on gear, or the one that's most focused on just being creative and writing songs and, you know, the creative process and stuff. So I was really happy with the way that video came out. And stoked. So have a good week, and I will see you guys very soon. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Take it easy.